In this video, I'd like to talk to you about your individual perceptions and how that affects the negotiation process. So to start with, what is perception? Well, generally, perception can be thought of as how you connect with or confront the environment or whatever it is you experience, right? It's perception allows you to ascribe meaning by processing the things that you come in contact with. In a negotiation, that means any messages, any communications, any happenings or events that take place, right? So your perception of things is strongly influenced by things that you've already experienced, your prior knowledge, your context or understanding currently of what's going on. So all of that will affect, once again, how you cognitively process the things you come in contact with. Now, with that being said, we are all prone, all individuals have a tendency towards perceptual distortions. That is, we process things a certain way based upon our prior experiences, our prior knowledge, things like that, that causes us to see something in a way that may not be true. It causes us to not to be able to accurately assess the situation for itself. That is, we infer too much from prior experiences. So what we are perceiving, we see in a particular light given those prior perceptions that may or not be true. Okay? Now, that being said, I'd like to identify some of the more common perceptual distortions that you'll see in the negotiation process. To start with, stereotyping. Okay, so stereotyping is when you attribute some tendency or meaning to something based upon your prior experience or prior understanding of it without going through the full process of processing the information or the scenario as it exists, right? You ascribe meaning before you've done that mental work, okay? And that oftentimes can create errors, right? You have a perception about something that may not be true because you're relying on that past stereotype, right? And the next one is the halo effect. Now, the halo effect, and a synonym for the opposite direction would be maybe the forked tail effect, where basically you attribute your overall perception of an individual or situation or event based upon one characteristic. In the halo effect, a positive characteristic. In the forked tail effect, a negative characteristic, right? But basically you say that characteristic is dominant of that person or that situation, but primarily the person, and you attribute all things good because of that one characteristic, right? It's a common perceptual distortion when we see the effects of someone's actions, right? They have one success and all of a sudden, or the characteristics of their time in position, for example. A leader is at the position of a company that's doing well. We assume that the reason the company's doing well might be the leadership of the executive or the person at the top. The same effect if the company's doing poorly. We also could assume that the leader is doing poorly, right? Where that may not be true. There may be many other factors at play, but it's a shortcut in our perceptual process that distorts reality, okay? Selective perception, or what we often call confirmation bias, right? That is our tendency to look for information or to only process information that coincides with or supports our already existing opinion or point of view. Okay, so we only focus on the information that supports the things that we already believe, already see, that type of thing, right? So once again, in doing so, you're excluding or ignoring other information that could be perceived and again would have an effect on the situation. So that's selective perception or confirmation bias. And then lastly, projection. We all have a tendency to project our beliefs on others, whether rightly or wrongly, in that the other person may not see things the exact same way that we do, right? Not that their view or our view is right, it's simply that we believe wrongfully, right? Or suppose, I would say, that others see things the way we do, and that informs our belief and our understanding, where it may be the case that the other person does not have the same belief, right, or understanding of the situation. So us projecting that on them will cause a distortion primarily about the context of the situation or the negotiation. So all of these are individual perceptions that run into issues that are subject to distortion. But the important thing to understand here is that individual perception is paramount. It is extremely important in the negotiation process because that, once again, is how we cognitively process all that we come into contact with, whether communication, information, or context or scenario in which a negotiation takes place.